How does a smaller regional power take on the world's largest navy with its massive aircraft carriers and advanced destroyers? Well, Iran's strategy isn't to face the US head-on. It is to rely on asymmetric warfare. Take this for example. These two civilian ships are sailing near an aircraft carrier. Everything looks completely normal. But then, with the press of a button, the shipping container doors opens up and out comes a missile. These are the self-made Iranian anti-ship missiles, which can still pack a punch. This is instantly followed by a swarm of low-flying drones and fast attack boats from within the cargo ships, and not to forget the small midget submarines. These submarines can launch torpedoes at the same time. In quick succession, it can pass through the carrier's strike group defense system and even achieve 10% impact. They might not sink the carrier, but they can damage it enough to make the waters too dangerous for the US to operate in. So let's look at the 4 key tactics they would likely use. Tactic 1. First and perhaps most famous is the swarm. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy operates hundreds of small, fast attack craft armed with heavy machine guns, rockets, and anti-ship missiles. The tactic here is simple, but deadly. Instead of trying to fight a US destroyer one-on-one, which they would lose, they deploy dozens of small boats simultaneously from every direction. The goal is to overwhelm the US ship's defensive systems, like the phalanx, by presenting more targets than the ship can track and destroy at once. Moving to Tactic 2, mining the strait. Next, we have the silent killer, mining the Strait of Hormuz. This is the world's most critical oil choke point. Iran maintains an inventory of thousands of naval mines, including smart mines that can listen for the specific acoustic signatures of enemy ships. In a conflict, Iran could use submarines, small boats, or even disguised civilian vessels to drop mines right into the shipping lanes. The goal here isn't just military, it's economic. This would deny the US Navy safe passage and immediately spike global oil prices, inflicting massive economic pain on the US and its allies. Here comes Tactic 3, the kill zone. Third is the geographic advantage, coastal missile batteries. The Iranian coastline is mountainous and rugged, perfect cover for mobile missile launchers. The regime also employs shoot-and-scoot tactics using truck-mounted cruise and ballistic missiles. They fire a missile and immediately move to a new hiding spot before the US can strike back. This effectively turns the Gulf into a kill zone, where US ships are under constant threat of fire from land with nowhere to hide. Tactic 4. We have the ambush threat, midget submarines. The Persian Gulf is actually quite shallow, which makes it difficult for massive US nuclear submarines to operate. However, it is perfect for Iran's fleet of diesel-electric mini-subs, like the Ghadar class. These small subs can sit silently on the seafloor, waiting for a target to pass overhead before firing torpedoes. It's a surprise ambush tactic designed to damage high-value assets, like carriers or destroyers, while remaining almost impossible to detect by sonar. These small but stealthy diesel-electric submarines, designed for operations in the shallow waters of the Persian Gulf, pose a significant threat to US aircraft carriers. The Ghadar-class submarines, which are difficult to detect due to their small size and low acoustic signature, could position themselves in strategic locations near key naval choke points, such as the Strait of Hormuz. Equipped with heavyweight torpedoes and capable of deploying naval mines, these submarines could launch surprise attacks on US aircraft carriers. By waiting in ambush near expected carrier movements, Ghadar-class submarines could fire a coordinated torpedo strike, targeting the hull and propulsion systems of US carriers. A successful torpedo strike on an aircraft carrier could disable its flight deck operations, significantly reducing the US Navy's ability to project air power in the region. Additionally, these submarines could lay underwater mines in critical sea lanes, forcing US warships into predetermined ambush zones where Iranian missile and drone attacks could follow up. Tactic 5. We can't ignore the aerial threat. This is drone warfare. Iran has invested heavily in becoming a drone superpower in the Middle East. In a conflict, they would use UAVs not just for surveillance, but as loitering munitions, essentially suicide drones. The tactic is to launch them in massive waves to crash into the sensitive radar dishes and flight decks of US ships. The goal is to blind the fleet's sensors and halt flight operations, leaving the ships vulnerable to missile attacks. Let's look at Tactic 6. The U.S. fleet relies on ports in Bahrain and air cover from bases in Qatar to sustain the fight. Iran possesses the largest ballistic missile arsenal in the Middle East. Their strategy includes massive missile barrages targeting these static headquarters and logistical hubs. The goal isn't just to destroy buildings, but to deny the U.S. Navy the fuel, ammo, and command support it needs to stay in the fight. If the ships have nowhere to dock, they can't stay in the Gulf. Iran's military strategy for targeting U.S. air bases in the Middle East would likely rely on a coordinated, multi-domain approach. By combining its missile arsenal, drone capabilities, and proxy forces, Iran aims to overwhelm American defenses and inflict significant damage. Among the high-value targets, Iran would likely prioritize are Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, naval support activity NS at Bahrain, multiple U.S. military bases in Iraq, and Al Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates. This approach reflects Tehran's broader strategic objectives, deterring U.S. military intervention, retaliating decisively in the event of conflict, and asserting its influence across the region. One of the most probable targets in a direct confrontation is Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. As the largest U.S. military installation in the Middle East, it hosts around 8,000 American troops and serves as the regional headquarters for U.S. Central Command. The base plays a crucial role in supporting air operations across the region and is a central pillar of the U.S. military presence in the Gulf. To strike Al Udeid and similar bases, Iran could deploy ballistic missiles such as the Fateh-110, which has a range of about 300 kilometers, or the Qunan-1, capable of reaching up to 800 kilometers. If it uses a proximity fuse, it may detonate just above the surface, airburst, to maximize fragmentation and increase the affected area. Complete destruction of unarmored structures and lethal to unprotected personnel. Extreme overpressure, possibly 100 to 300 psi in this zone, will destroy hardened aircraft shelters, fuel tanks, and command posts if directly hit. Depending on where these missiles are launched from, they pose a credible threat to key U.S. installations across the Gulf. In Bahrain, the Naval Support Activity NS at base serves as the headquarters of the U.S. Naval Forces Central Command and the U.S. Fifth Fleet. With more than 9,000 American personnel stationed there, it is the only permanent U.S. naval shore base in the Middle East. Its port facilities are capable of accommodating aircraft carriers and amphibious ships, making it a vital maritime hub. Given NSA Bahrain's role, Iran may also target U.S. warships in port or operating in nearby waters. It possesses a highly developed arsenal of anti-ship cruise missiles, launched from coastal batteries or naval platforms, which can threaten U.S. naval superiority in the Persian Gulf. Iran may also exploit proxy forces in Yemen and pro-Iranian militias in Iraq to launch indirect attacks or stir instability within Bahrain itself. In Kuwait, the U.S. maintains a strong presence at Camp Arifshan and Ali al-Salem Air Base, which together host around 13,500 troops as of 2021. These facilities act as key operational and logistical hubs, particularly for U.S. missions in Iraq and the broader Gulf region. They also use the Soviet-era anti-ship missiles with solid booster and liquid fuel attached to it, produced during the Cold War, is employed for the attacking mission. When launched, the first stage booster fires off for 2 to 3 seconds, after which the second stage takes off. It searches for a target using analog radar. When locked and ready, it can destroy a ship using a hollow-shaped charged warhead. This has the potential to either destroy or sink a cargo ship if it hits at the right angle. Scenario 2. This involves the use of a Soviet-era missile that was re-engineered by the Iranians, converting it into an anti-ship missile. The converted SA-2 missile can be launched from within 45 kilometers or 28 miles from the target. Take, for example, the U.S. destroyers sailing through the Red Sea. When fired, these anti-ship missiles can travel at a speed of Mach 3.5. These actions create a psychological impact and disrupt trade routes. Speaking of Iraq, several U.S. military bases are located relatively close to Iran's western border. Their proximity places them well within range of Iranian missile strikes, adding to the strategic and tactical complexity of the region's security landscape. missile forces are dispersed across hardened underground bases